The repair bay was silent except for the soft humming of tools and the occasional crackle of damaged circuits. Kai sat at a metal bench in the far corner, his hands moving carefully as he adjusted a damaged chest plate. The room smelled of burnt metal and coolant from hours of work. It had been a long day, but he could not stop now. The exploration crew had just returned from a dangerous mission on a nearby planet, and many of their weapons and suits were damaged. Kai was the only human engineer in the crew. The others were from different alien species, each with their own customs, languages, and designs for their battle gear. He had trained for years to understand a variety of alien technology, but every mission brought new challenges. He liked solving problems, and even though the job was stressful, he felt proud whenever his repairs saved lives. This time, however, the damage was worse than usual. The crew had faced an ambush from a hostile alien species known as the Kern. The Kern were larger and stronger than most of the crew, and they fought with heavy weapons that caused deep structural damage to armor. Many of the crew members had minor injuries, but one warrior had taken the worst of the attack. Zero was unlike anyone Kai had ever met. She came from a warrior race known for their strict honor code and unmatched skill in combat. She was tall, almost a full head taller than Kai, with silver-gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the repair bay lights. Her eyes were sharp and reflective like polished metal. She spoke little, preferring action to words, and when she did speak, her voice was deep and commanding. Her armor was a masterpiece of design. It was forged from rare materials that were nearly indestructible, layered with both protective plating and energy shielding. Kai had seen advanced armor before, but Zira's was on a different level entirely. It was not only a tool for battle but also a symbol of her status among her people. When Zira had returned from the fight, her armor was cracked and scorched in several places. The outer plates were dented, and the inner systems were malfunctioning. Kai had been shocked at the sight. For armor like that to be damaged so badly, the fight must have been fierce. The rest of the crew had gone to rest after giving their reports. Some were laughing in the mess hall, trying to relax after the stress of battle. Kai, however, stayed behind to begin repairing Zira's armor. He knew there would not be much time before they had to move again. The Kern were known for attacking in waves, and if they came back, Zira would need her armor ready. Kai worked carefully, examining each broken piece. As he removed one of the inner plates, he noticed something strange. Hidden beneath the layers of metal were markings. They were unlike anything he had seen before, curved lines and symbols etched into the frame of the armor. They looked ancient, almost ceremonial, like they held meaning beyond just engineering. He frowned and leaned closer, trying to understand. Perhaps they were part of the design or a signature from the original maker. But the symbols gave him a strange feeling, as if they were watching him. It was silly to think that, but he could not shake the unease. The door to the repair bay opened with a soft hiss, and Kai nearly dropped his tool in surprise. Zira entered, her tall figure filling the doorway. She moved with the quiet grace of a predator, her steps measured and precise. Even without her armor, she carried herself like a warrior ready for battle. "You stayed behind," she said, her voice calm but firm. Kai nodded, quickly setting the inner plate aside. There was too much damage. I wanted to start right away so it's ready if we need to move again. Zira studied him for a moment. Her silver eyes seemed to pierce right through him. That is wise. The Kern will not stop after one attack. They will return. They always do. The way she spoke sent a chill down Kai's spine. He had faced danger before, but Zira's tone made it clear that the Kern were not to be taken lightly. I'll do my best to fix everything, Kai said, trying to sound confident. But I've never worked on armor like this before. It's different. Zira stepped closer, and for the first time, Kai noticed the faint scars along her arms and shoulders. They were old, evidence of countless battles. She placed one hand on the damaged chest plate lying on the bench. This armor is more than protection, she said. It is a part of me. My people forge our armor with care and tradition. To damage it is to wound our honor. To repair it is to restore our spirit. Kai swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words. This was more than just a repair job. It was a responsibility. I understand, he said quietly. Zira gave a single nod. Good. Then you will handle it with respect. Work quickly, but do not rush. Precision matters. With that, she stepped back, crossing her arms as she watched him. Kai felt her gaze on him like a heavy weight. It was both intimidating and motivating. He turned back to the armor, focusing on his task. As he worked, the room fell silent again except for the hum of his tools. He carefully removed damaged pieces, cleaned the connections, and replaced parts that were beyond repair. Zira said nothing, but Kai could feel her presence behind him. After some time, he spoke without looking up. These markings inside the armor, they're unusual. I've never seen anything like them before. What do they mean? For a moment, there was no answer. Then Zira's voice came, lower and more guarded than before. They are not for outsiders to know. Focus on the repair. Kai hesitated, then nodded. Of course. Still, his curiosity burned. He had worked with many alien species and learned countless new designs, but this was different. The symbol seemed personal, almost sacred. Hours passed as Kai continued his work. His hands grew tired, but he did not stop. He knew that every piece he repaired could make the difference between life and death in the next battle. Finally, he reached a particularly complex section near the armor's core. It was a delicate system that controlled the energy shields. As he adjusted a thin wire, the lights flickered, and a soft pulse of energy ran through the armor. Zero moved closer, watching carefully. Be cautious, she warned. That section is vital. If it fails, the armor will be vulnerable. Kai nodded, concentrating. His fingers moved with precision as he secured the wire and checked the connections. Sweat ran down his forehead, but he ignored it. When the adjustment was complete, he let out a slow breath. Done. This part should hold now. Zira examined the section closely, then gave a small nod of approval. Good work. You are skilled, human. The compliment caught Kai off guard. Zira was not known for giving praise easily. He felt a small surge of pride, though he tried to hide it. Thank you, he said simply. Before they could continue, a sudden alarm blared through the base. Red lights flashed, and a mechanical voice announced, "Warning. Enemy ship detected. Prepare for defense." Zira's eyes narrowed. The Kern have returned. Just as I expected. She turned to Kai, her voice sharp and commanding. How much longer until the armor is battle-ready? Kai glanced at the remaining repairs. I need more time, but I can finish it if you give me a little while. We do not have much while, Zira said firmly. She began strapping on the repaired pieces he had finished. Work as fast as you can. I will hold them off if necessary. Kai's heart raced as he grabbed his tools and returned to work with renewed urgency. The enemy was coming, and the base was about to be under attack again. As he tightened the last bolt, he looked up at Zira. She stood tall and ready, her expression calm but fierce. Even with damaged armor, she radiated strength and determination. For the first time, Kai truly understood why the others respected her so much. She was more than a warrior. She was a protector, a leader, and perhaps the only thing standing between them and destruction. The alarm continued to wail, and the ground trembled slightly as enemy ships landed nearby. Kai's hands shook, but he forced himself to keep working. This was not just a repair job anymore. It was a fight for survival. The repair bay shook violently as the alarm blared louder. Tools fell from the shelves, clattering to the floor. Kai stumbled but caught himself against the bench. His heart pounded in his chest. The Kern were here, and they were not waiting. Zero moved with calm precision. Even while the base trembled, her focus never wavered. She began securing the chest plate that Kai had just finished repairing. Her tall frame looked even more intimidating now that part of her armor was back in place. "Finish what you can," Zira ordered. "I will not enter battle half protected if I can help it." Kai nodded quickly and grabbed another piece of the armor. His hands shook as he worked, but he forced himself to focus. He had to stay calm. If he rushed and made a mistake, it could cost Zira her life. The door slid open again, and several members of the crew rushed in. They were from different species, each with their own weapons and combat gear. One of them, a short reptilian being named Revo, looked at Zero with worry. "The enemy is close," Revo hissed. "We need you out there now." Zira tightened a strap on her forearm plate and glanced at Kai. "How much longer?" Kai's eyes darted between the last two damaged sections. "I can get one more piece fixed before you go, maybe two if I work very fast." "Do one," Zira said firmly. "That will be enough for me to fight." Revo growled in frustration but said nothing more. The crew quickly left, heading to the defensive lines. Zira stayed, standing perfectly still while Kai worked. Her stillness was unnerving. She didn't flinch, didn't shift her weight, didn't even blink often. It was as though she had trained her body to be like a statue. Kai leaned closer to the section near her shoulder. The damage here was tricky, a combination of structural cracks and a small energy leak. He needed to seal both without harming the surrounding systems. His hands moved carefully, holding a thin tool like a surgeon's knife. As he adjusted a delicate wire, he felt Zira's gaze on him. It was intense, almost like she was studying not just his work, but him as a person. He decided to speak, partly to break the silence and partly to calm himself. "Your people, you've fought the Kern before, haven't you?" "Yes," Zira replied, her voice low. "Many times." Kai hesitated before asking, "And you've always won?" Zira's lips curved slightly, though it wasn't quite a smile. "We do not measure victory in simple terms. Survival is victory. Defending our honor is victory. Defeating the enemy is only part of it." Kai nodded slowly, though he wasn't sure he fully understood. He tightened the last connection, then gently pressed the outer plate back into place. When he touched the inner frame, Zira suddenly spoke again, her tone sharper this time. "You are touching me too gently." Kai froze. His hand hovered in midair as he stared at her in confusion. I'm sorry." "I didn't mean it is not an insult," Zira interrupted. Her voice was calm now, but her eyes were serious. "Among my people, when one repairs another's armor, they must do so with strength and certainty. Gentle movements suggest hesitation, or worse, fear. Kai blinked, unsure how to respond. I was just trying to be careful. This is important work. Careful is good, Zira said, but you must also be confident. Show the armor, and the one who wears it, that you respect its purpose. Her words carried weight beyond their literal meaning. Kai realized this was about more than just fixing metal. It was about trust. He swallowed and nodded. I understand. I'll do better. Zira gave a single approving nod. Good. The moment was brief, but it stayed in Kai's mind as he finished sealing the final section. This time, he moved with deliberate firmness. His hands were steady, his touch sure. When he locked the last piece into place, Zira gave a small, almost imperceptible sign of approval. Before they could speak again, a loud explosion shook the entire base. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the lights flickered. A voice came over the intercom, shouting that the outer defense lines were breached. Zira grabbed her weapon, a long curved blade with glowing edges, and turned toward the door. Time is over. I must fight now. Kai stepped back, his tools still in hand. Be careful out there. Zira paused for just a moment. Care is not what wins battles. Resolve does. Then she was gone, moving with the speed of a trained warrior. Kai stood alone in the repair bay, staring at the empty doorway. His hands were still trembling slightly. He had never been in direct combat like this. His job was always behind the scenes, fixing things so others could fight. But now, with the enemy so close, he felt the danger pressing in. He shook himself and quickly packed up his tools. If Zira's armor was damaged again in the battle, he needed to be ready to fix it immediately. Moments later, he heard the sounds of battle echoing through the halls. Shouts, weapon fire, and the guttural roars of the Kern mixed together in a terrifying symphony. Kai crouched behind a crate near the bay entrance, peering out cautiously. He caught glimpses of the fight as crew members clashed with the enemy. The Kern were massive creatures with thick hides and heavy weapons. Even with the crew's advanced technology, it was a brutal struggle. Zira was in the center of it all. Even from a distance, Kai could see her moving with unmatched precision. Her blade sliced through enemy weapons, her repaired armor deflecting blows that would have crushed anyone else. Kai's heart swelled with both fear and admiration. She was like a force of nature, unstoppable and unyielding. But then he saw a crack in her side plate, one that hadn't been there before. It was small, but if left unfixed, it could grow and leave her vulnerable. Kai's instincts took over. He grabbed his toolkit and sprinted toward the battlefield, weaving through fallen debris. As he reached Zira, she glanced at him in surprise. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, parrying a strike from a towering Kern warrior. "Your armor is breaking again," Kai shouted over the noise. "I can fix it now, while you fight." Zira's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed in determination. "Stay close. Do not falter." Kai positioned himself behind her, tools ready. Zira fought fiercely, keeping the enemies at bay while Kai worked on the crack. His hands moved quickly but confidently, just as she had instructed. The heat of battle surrounded him. Blasts of energy scorched the ground nearby. The air smelled of smoke and metal. His ears rang with the clash of weapons and the shouts of warriors. For a moment, fear threatened to overwhelm him. But then he remembered Zira's words about resolve. He took a deep breath and focused only on the task in front of him. Zira's voice cut through the chaos. "Steady, human. You are doing well. The unexpected praise gave Kai strength. He sealed the crack, then moved to reinforce another weak point. Each time he finished a repair, Zira shifted her stance to cover him, her blade flashing like lightning. The bond between them grew with every second. She trusted him to keep her armor intact, and he trusted her to keep him alive. Finally, with a fierce cry, Zira struck down the last of the Kern warriors in their area. The battlefield fell silent except for the heavy breathing of the crew. Kai collapsed to his knees, exhausted but relieved. His hands were blackened with soot, his tools scorched from overuse. Zira turned to him, her expression unreadable. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she reached down and helped him to his feet. "You fought beside me," she said. "Not with a weapon, but with skill and courage. That is rare." Kai managed a tired smile. "I just fixed your armor." Zira's eyes gleamed like silver. "No. You did more than that." Before he could respond, a voice came over the intercom. "Warning. Enemy reinforcements detected. All fighters prepare for round 2. The brief moment of calm vanished. Zira tightened her grip on her blade and looked at Kai. "Stay ready," she said. "This is far from over." Kai swallowed hard and nodded. His hands were still shaking, but now it wasn't just fear. It was determination. He understood now. He wasn't just an engineer anymore. He was part of this fight, part of this team, and Zira was counting on him. As the next wave of enemies approached, Kai readied his tools once more. Whatever came next, he would face it with the same resolve that Zira had shown him. Because in this battle, survival wasn't just about fighting. It was about trust, strength, and standing together. The base was in chaos. Sirens blared as crew members rushed through the corridors, preparing for the next attack. The first wave had been brutal, leaving many wounded and sections of the base heavily damaged. The smell of smoke lingered in the air, mixed with the metallic scent of blood and burnt circuitry. Kai stood beside Zira in a hallway lit by red emergency lights. His chest rose and fell rapidly as he tried to steady his breathing. His hands were still trembling from the rush of battle repairs. He had never been so close to the front lines before. Zira's expression was calm, her silver eyes sharp and focused. Her repaired armor gleamed faintly in the dim light, though several spots were already scorched again from the recent fight. She showed no sign of fear or exhaustion. "They will strike soon," she said firmly, her voice carrying authority. "The Kern do not retreat without reason. They are regrouping." Kai wiped sweat from his forehead and swallowed hard. "How many do you think are coming?" Zira glanced toward the reinforced blast doors at the end of the hall. "Enough to test every defense we have left. Maybe more." Her words made Kai's stomach tighten. The first wave had been nearly overwhelming. If another wave was stronger, he wasn't sure they could hold. As they moved toward the central command room, Kai's mind returned to what Zira had said earlier about his touch being too gentle. It had puzzled him deeply, but in the chaos of battle, he hadn't had time to think about it. Now, with a brief moment of calm, he couldn't stop wondering what she had truly meant. The command room was filled with noise and movement. Crew members shouted reports while holographic displays projected maps of the surrounding terrain. The commander, a tall insectoid being named Vrax, turned sharply when he saw Zira enter. Finally, Vrax said, his voice clicking in his native tongue before switching to a common language. "We are barely holding the outer defenses. We need you at the front immediately." "I will go," Zira replied. "But my armor is not yet at full strength." If it fails, the line will break. Vrax's eyes darted to Kai, who stood nervously at her side. Then make sure it does not fail, human. Your skills may decide whether we live or die. Kai nodded quickly, though his throat felt dry. I'll do everything I can. Zira and Kai followed Vrax's orders, heading to a quieter corner of the room where they could speak privately. Zira crouched so they were at eye level. There is something you must understand, she said. You asked before about the markings inside my armor. Kai's heart skipped. Yes. They looked ancient. Like they had meaning. They do, Zira confirmed. Her voice softened slightly, though it still carried strength. Among my people, armor is not merely equipment. It is a bond between warrior and clan. The inner markings are sacred. They represent our oaths, our victories, and the trust placed in us by our ancestors. Kai listened intently, his eyes wide. So when I was repairing it, I was touching something sacred. Zira nodded once. Yes. That is why I told you not to be gentle. A hesitant hand suggests doubt. When you repair my armor, you are not just fixing metal. You are declaring your belief in me and in the fight we are waging. The weight of her words settled heavily on Kai's shoulders. He realized now why Zira had reacted so strongly earlier. He had treated the armor like a fragile machine, but to her, it was alive with history and meaning. I didn't know, he said quietly. I didn't want to disrespect you or your traditions. You did not, Zira assured him. You adapted. When I corrected you, you changed your approach. That shows respect. For the first time, Kai saw something softer in Zira's expression. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. Before they could continue, a loud tremor shook the base. Alarms screamed again, and the holographic displays flickered. Vrax shouted orders from across the room. The enemy is breaching the outer wall, someone yelled. Zira rose to her full height, her presence commanding immediate attention. We must go, she said. Kai grabbed his toolkit and followed her through the twisting corridors toward the battle. As they ran, he couldn't stop thinking about what she had told him. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about trust and connection. When they reached the outer defense line, chaos reigned. The Khurn were pouring through a massive breach in the wall. Their heavy weapons blasted holes in barricades while their warriors charged with terrifying strength. The crew fought desperately, but they were being pushed back step by step. Zero leaped into the fray, her blade flashing like silver lightning. She moved with deadly grace, cutting down enemy after enemy. Even amid the chaos, her presence gave the defenders new hope. Kai stayed just behind her, watching for any sign of damage to her armor. His hands gripped his tools tightly. He knew that if her armor failed now, it could cost them everything. As the battle raged, a massive Khurn warrior emerged from the smoke. It was nearly twice Zira's size, with heavy plating covering its body. It roared and swung a massive weapon that sent defenders flying. Zira faced it without hesitation. The two warriors clashed, their weapons striking with a sound like thunder. Kai's breath caught as he saw a deep crack form along Zira's backplate. Energy sparks flew from the damaged section. Zira! Your armor! Kai shouted. She gritted her teeth and pushed the enemy back for a moment. Fix it, she barked. Now! Kai sprinted to her side, adrenaline surging through him. He dropped to one knee behind her and opened his toolkit. The crack was bad, worse than anything he had seen before. If it spread, her entire defense system would collapse. As he worked, Zero fought fiercely to keep the massive warrior at bay. Sweat poured down Kai's face as he sealed wires and reinforced the frame. His hands moved quickly, his earlier hesitation completely gone. Each movement was confident and strong. He wasn't just fixing armor now, he was protecting a life, protecting a bond. The Kern warrior roared and struck with renewed fury. Zero blocked the blow, her muscles straining. "Hurry, Kai," she shouted. "Almost there," he replied, tightening the final connection. The energy shield hummed back to full power. Zero let out a sharp cry and pushed forward with incredible strength, driving her blade deep into the enemy's chest. The massive warrior fell with a ground-shaking thud. The remaining Kern hesitated for a moment, then began to retreat. Their leader was gone, and without him, their attack faltered. The defenders cheered, raising their weapons in victory. Kai collapsed backward, gasping for air. His hands were burned and sore, but he didn't care. He had done it. Zira turned to him, her chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. She extended a hand and helped him to his feet. "You fought well," she said. "Not with a blade, but with skill and courage. That is no less important." Kai managed a tired smile. "I just fixed your armor." Zira's eyes gleamed. "And by doing so, you fixed our line. You saved us all." As they walked back toward the base, Kai felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had always seen himself as just an engineer, someone who stayed in the background while others did the real fighting. But today, he had been part of the battle in his own way. When they reached a quieter hallway, Zira stopped and turned to him. "You now understand the truth," she said. "Armor is more than metal. It is trust, it is history, it is a symbol of who we are." Kai nodded. "I understand. And I promise, I'll treat it that way from now on." Zira studied him for a moment, then gave a rare, genuine smile. "Good. Then you are no longer just an outsider. You are part of my warrior bond." Before Kai could respond, another alarm blared. A voice came over the intercom, urgent and strained. "Warning. Multiple enemy ships detected. Reinforcements incoming. All units prepare for immediate defense." Zira's smile vanished. She gripped her blade tightly and looked toward the main entrance. "The battle is not over," she said. Kai tightened his hold on his toolkit. His fear was still there, but now it was tempered by resolve. "We'll face it together," he said firmly. Zira nodded once. "Yes. Together." As the new wave of enemies descended, the bond between them was stronger than ever. Human and alien, engineer and warrior, they would stand side by side and neither would falter. The sky above the base burned red as enemy ships descended like falling stars. Their engines roared, shaking the ground and rattling the walls. The air was heavy with smoke and the sharp smell of ozone. Kai stood near Zira at the base entrance, clutching his toolkit tightly. His heart pounded so loudly he could hear it over the alarms. Around them, defenders scrambled to their positions. Some set up heavy cannons while others checked energy shields and prepared for close combat. Zira adjusted her repaired armor, pulling the final strap into place. Her tall, imposing figure seemed like an unmovable wall in the chaos. The silver edges of her blade glowed faintly in the darkening light. She looked calm, but Kai could sense the tension beneath her steady exterior. Vrax, the insectoid commander, shouted orders from a raised platform. "Shields at full power. Hold your ground until the second line is ready. Do not let them breach the inner walls." The crew responded with a unified cry, though fear lingered in their voices. Kai swallowed hard and turned to Zira. If they break through again, we'll be in the middle of it. They will break through, Zira said, her voice steady but grim. The Kern fight with overwhelming force. Our goal is to delay them and survive. Kai's hands trembled slightly as he opened his toolkit. I'll be ready to fix your armor if it takes more hits. Zira glanced down at him. Her silver eyes softened for just a moment. Stay close to me, human. I will keep you safe while you work. Before Kai could respond, the first enemy ships landed with a thunderous impact. The ground shook so violently that Kai nearly fell. The ship doors hissed open, and the Kern warriors charged out with terrifying speed. The battle began instantly. Energy blasts lit up the field as defenders fired from behind barricades. The noise was deafening, the sharp crack of weapons, the guttural roars of the Kern, the shouts of commands. Zero leaped forward, her blade flashing. She moved with incredible precision, striking down enemies before they could even react. Her repaired armor deflected incoming attacks, sparks flying as blasts ricocheted off the reinforced plates. Kai stayed just behind her, crouching low as he moved. His eyes scanned her armor constantly, looking for signs of damage. His job was not to fight, but he knew his role was just as important. If Zero fell, their defense would crumble. A massive Kern warrior swung a heavy weapon toward Zira. She blocked the strike with her blade, but the force of the blow sent her sliding back several feet. Kai's breath caught as he saw a fresh crack appear near her leg plate. Zira. Damage on your left side, he shouted. Without hesitation, Zira shifted her stance, giving Kai a narrow window to work. Fix it, she commanded, holding off two more enemies at once. Kai sprinted forward, dropping to one knee. His hands moved quickly, tools flashing as he sealed the crack. Sweat poured down his face, but his movements were sure and confident. Blasts of energy whizzed past his head. He flinched but didn't stop. You must hurry, Zira said through gritted teeth as she blocked another strike. Almost done, Kai replied, tightening the final bolt. There. The plate locked into place just as Zira spun and struck down her attackers. She gave him a quick nod of approval before charging toward the next group of enemies. Kai followed, adrenaline surging through him. Fear still gnawed at his stomach, but it was tempered by determination. He had a job to do, and he would not fail. As the battle raged, the defenders began to fall back toward the second line. The Kern were relentless, their numbers seeming endless. Vrax's voice boomed over the intercom. Retreat to the inner defenses. Hold your positions at all costs. The crew obeyed, moving in coordinated groups. Zira and Kai stayed near the center, acting as a critical point of defense. During a brief lull, Kai noticed something strange on the horizon. A large enemy vehicle was moving toward them, its heavy cannon glowing with energy. Zira, look, he shouted, pointing. That thing is going to tear through the inner wall. Zira's eyes narrowed. I will handle it. Stay here. Before Kai could protest, she sprinted forward with incredible speed, weaving through enemy lines. Her blade flashed as she cut down those who tried to stop her. Kai's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to run after her, but he knew he would only slow her down. Instead, he scanned the battlefield, ready to move if she needed repairs mid-fight. Zira reached the massive vehicle and leaped onto it with a fierce cry. She drove her blade deep into the glowing cannon, causing a massive explosion that shook the ground. The vehicle erupted in flames, taking several nearby enemies with it. Cheers rose from the defenders as Zero leapt clear of the blast. Kai's heart swelled with pride and relief. She was incredible, almost unstoppable. But then he saw her stumble slightly as she landed. His eyes darted to her side, where smoke curled from a damaged plate. "Zira," he shouted, sprinting toward her. She turned, her face calm but pale. "I am still able to fight," she said. Kai skidded to a stop beside her, kneeling to inspect the damage. "Not for long if we don't fix this." "Hold still." Zira obeyed, standing perfectly still even as the battle raged around them. Her trust in Kai was absolute. As he worked, Kai noticed something new beneath the broken section of armor. More of the strange markings were visible, etched deep into the frame. "These symbols," he said breathlessly, "there are more of them here." Zira's voice was low but firm. "Each piece of armor carries a part of my clan's history. The deeper the marking, the older the memory it holds." Kai's hands moved with renewed care, his respect for the armor growing with every second. He understood now that this was more than a repair. It was a promise. "Almost done," he said, sealing the final connection. Zira flexed her arm, testing the repair. "Good. You have grown skilled very quickly." Kai smiled despite the chaos around them. "I have a good teacher." Before they could say more, a loud crash shook the ground. A new wave of Kern warriors poured through the breach, their numbers greater than before. The defenders groaned in despair. "We cannot hold," someone shouted. Vrax's voice boomed over the intercom again. "Fall back to the final defense line. Protect the core at all costs." Zira's expression hardened. "Kai, stay close. This will be the hardest fight yet." They moved quickly through the narrow corridors toward the final defensive position. As they ran, Kai glanced at Zira. "You've been fighting them for a long time, haven't you?" he asked between breaths. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "The Kern have threatened many worlds. My people have battled them for generations. Have you ever lost?" Zira's eyes glimmered like silver fire. "We do not lose. Even in death, we fight on through those who survive." Her words filled Kai with a strange mixture of fear and hope. When they reached the final line, the defenders formed a tight circle around the core. Energy shields shimmered faintly, their power nearly drained. Zira took her place at the very front. She looked down at Kai. "No matter what happens, do not leave my side." "I won't," Kai promised. The enemy charged with terrifying speed, their roars shaking the walls. The final battle began. Zira moved like a storm, cutting through enemies with unmatched skill. Kai stayed behind her, fixing her armor whenever a crack appeared. Their movements became perfectly synchronized, as if they had trained together for years. Each time Zira blocked an attack, Kai reinforced her plates. Each time Kai finished a repair, Zira surged forward to strike. The crew fought with renewed determination, inspired by the bond between warrior and engineer. For a moment, it seemed they might actually win. But then, a massive figure emerged from the smoke. It was the Kern war leader, towering over even the largest warriors. Its armor was black and jagged, its weapon glowing with deadly energy. The defenders faltered in fear. Zira stepped forward, her blade raised. "Stay back," she commanded. "This one is mine." Kai's breath caught. "Zira, you can't face it alone." "I must," she said firmly. "If I fall, you must finish the fight." Kai shook his head. "Then I'll make sure you don't fall." Their eyes met for a brief moment of understanding. The war leader roared and charged. Zero met the charge head-on, her blade clashing with its weapon in a burst of sparks. Kai stayed close, ready to repair her armor even in the middle of the fiercest battle yet. This was no longer just about survival. It was about proving that trust between species could stand against even the greatest enemy. And Kai knew they would win, or they would fall together. The battlefield roared with chaos as the massive Kern war leader swung its glowing weapon toward Zira. The air sizzled where the blade passed, and the shock wave of its swing knocked nearby defenders off their feet. The defenders scrambled to stand again, fear in their eyes, but they did not retreat. They knew this was the deciding moment. If Zero fell, everything would be lost. Kai crouched low behind a broken wall, clutching his toolkit tightly. His breath came fast and uneven, his heart pounding in his chest. He had seen Zero fight before, but never against an enemy like this. The war leader was taller, stronger, and far more skilled than any opponent she had faced. Its black armor glimmered with red light, and strange runes pulsed along its surface like living veins. Zero planted her feet firmly and raised her silver blade. Her repaired armor gleamed in the smoky light, each plate perfectly fitted by Kai's careful hands. She stood tall and unyielding, like a mountain in the middle of a storm. "Stay back," Zero commanded without turning her head. "This is my battle." Kai swallowed hard. "You don't have to do this alone. I can help." "You have already helped," Zira said, her voice calm but fierce. "Without you, this armor would be broken, and so would I. But this final fight is between warriors." The war leader roared, a sound so deep and powerful that the walls shook. Then it charged forward with terrifying speed. Its massive weapon swung in a deadly arc toward Zira's head. Zira blocked the blow, sparks flying as the two blades clashed. The impact was so strong that the ground cracked beneath her feet. She gritted her teeth and pushed back with all her strength, forcing the war leader to step away. Kai's hands tightened on his toolkit. He wanted to rush forward, to do something, but he knew if he got too close, he might distract her. So instead, he circled carefully, keeping an eye on every part of her armor. If a plate cracked or loosened, he would be there in an instant to fix it. The two combatants moved in a deadly dance. Zero was swift and precise, each strike aimed at a weak point in the war leader's armor. The war leader was brute strength and rage, its attacks wide and devastating. Every clash sent shockwaves across the battlefield, knocking over debris and forcing defenders to shield their faces. Kai noticed a hairline crack forming on Zira's left shoulder plate. His heart jumped. "Zira! Your shoulder," he shouted. "I see it," she replied, ducking under a heavy swing. "Be ready." She spun away from the war leader, creating a small opening. Kai sprinted forward, sliding across the dirt to reach her. His hands moved with lightning speed, tools clicking and snapping into place. Sweat dripped into his eyes, but he didn't blink. "Hurry," Zira urged, keeping her body between Kai and the enemy. "Almost there," Kai said, tightening the final piece. "Done." Zero leaped back into the fight just in time to block another crushing blow. She twisted her blade, driving the war leader's weapon into the ground, then struck upward at its chest. The attack left a deep scar in the black armor, but it wasn't enough to bring the creature down. The war leader roared in pain and fury. It swung wildly, forcing Zira to retreat. Kai scrambled behind cover again, breathing hard. His fingers were shaking, but he didn't let go of his tools. He knew there would be more damage soon. Around them, The rest of the defenders fought desperately to hold back the other Kern warriors. Vrax shouted orders, his voice cutting through the noise. Hold the line. Do not let them reach the core. The defenders rallied, inspired by Zira's courage. Even as exhaustion set in, they refused to give up. Zira and the war leader clashed again and again, neither giving an inch. The ground was littered with broken weapons and scorched metal. Each strike felt like the world itself might split apart. Kai watched closely, his eyes sharp. Then he saw something that made his blood run cold. The war leader's weapon had a hidden compartment that opened with a hiss. A glowing energy core emerged, pulsing dangerously. Zira, he shouted. It's charging something. That weapon's about to unleash a massive blast. Zira's eyes narrowed. She understood immediately. If that blast went off, the entire base would be destroyed. She rushed forward, striking with all her strength. The war leader blocked her, but she kept pressing, blow after blow, driving it back step by step. Kai's mind raced. He realized that even if Zira reached the core, she might not have enough power to destroy it alone. He scanned the battlefield desperately, looking for anything he could use. Then his eyes landed on a fallen enemy cannon, its energy cell still glowing faintly. He sprinted to it, skidding to his knees. His hands worked fast, disconnecting wires and rerouting power. Come on, he muttered under his breath. Zira's blade clashed with the war leader's weapon again. The energy core was fully charged now, its light blinding. Kai ripped out the final wire and hoisted the heavy energy cell onto his back. It hummed with unstable power, threatening to explode at any second. Zira, he yelled. Get clear. Without hesitation, Zira dove to the side. Kai hurled the energy cell straight at the war leader's weapon. The moment it connected, there was a blinding flash of light followed by a deafening explosion. The blast threw Kai backward, slamming him into a wall. Pain shot through his body, and his vision blurred. When the smoke cleared, the war leader was on its knees, its weapon shattered and its armor cracked wide open. Zira staggered to her feet, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. She walked slowly toward the wounded creature, raising her blade. This ends now, she declared. With one final, powerful strike, she drove her blade into the war leader's chest. The creature let out a low, rumbling sound before collapsing to the ground, unmoving. The battlefield went silent. The remaining Kern warriors froze, their leader defeated. Then, as one, they turned and fled, retreating into the night sky aboard their ships. Cheers erupted from the defenders. They raised their weapons high, shouting in victory. Kai struggled to his feet, his body aching but his spirit soaring. He stumbled toward Zira, who stood tall in the center of the field. You did it, he said, his voice trembling with relief. We did it, Zira corrected, placing a hand on his shoulder. Without you, I would have fallen long ago. Kai smiled, though his face was streaked with dirt and sweat. I just fixed your armor. No, Zira said firmly. You gave me the strength to fight. You risked your life for me again and again. You are no longer just an engineer. You are my battle partner. Her words hit Kai harder than any explosion. His chest swelled with pride. Vrax approached, his insectoid eyes gleaming. The day is ours, thanks to both of you, he said. The Council will hear of this victory. Humanity has proven its worth today. Kai felt his face grow warm at the praise. He had never imagined that someone like him, a simple repairman, could be seen as a hero. The defenders began repairing the base and tending to the wounded. Kai followed Zira to a quiet corner, where she removed her helmet and looked at him with a rare softness. "My people have a tradition," she said. "When a warrior bonds with another in battle, their armor is entrusted only to that person from that day forward. It is a vow of loyalty and trust." Kai blinked, his throat tight. "You mean you want me to keep repairing your armor?" Zira smiled faintly. "Not just repair it? Protect it? Protect me." Kai felt a lump in his chest. "I'll do it. I promise." From that moment on, their bond was sealed. Days later, as the base returned to normal, Kai noticed how the others treated him differently. They no longer saw him as just a human repairman. They saw him as a vital part of the team, someone who had stood beside Zira in the darkest hour and helped turn the tide of battle. When the next mission came, Zira walked into the armory and stood before Kai. She set her armor on the table, her silver eyes shining with pride. "Only you," she said simply. Kai smiled and picked up his tools. "Always." And as he worked, he understood that what began as a simple task had become something far greater. He was no longer just repairing armor. He was protecting a bond, defending a trust that stretched across species and cultures. Together, they were ready to face whatever new battles awaited among the stars. The galaxy had seen the strength of a human and an alien standing side by side, and it would never forget the day a humble repairman became a warrior's equa.